has been sentenced to 20 years in prison. Hong Kongers and the world are reacting strongly to the sentence. Here's the story.
A court in Hong Kong has sentenced media founder and critic of China's Communist Party Jimmy Lai to 20 years in prison. A panel of judges sentenced Lai under the city's national security law, a law imposed by the Chinese regime in 2020. Lai, who started the pro-democracy newspaper Apple Daily, was convicted in December last year of colluding with foreign forces and publishing so-called seditious material. Before his sentencing Monday, he had already spent years in custody. Supporters had been lining up outside the courthouse for days, hoping to see him in person.
I think the Hong Kong situation now is like today's weather, gray and covered with dark clouds. Apple Daily was the only platform which carried the voice of the Hong Kongers.
Today's sentence brought no relief. The judges spared Lai the maximum penalty of life in prison. But for the 78-year-old, 20 years could still mean he remains in prison for the rest of his life. Lai's family says his health has worsened during years of detention. His son called the punishment devastating for the family and life-threatening for his father. The ruling prompted immediate criticism from press freedom advocates. Jody Ginsburg, CEO of the Committee to Protect Journalists, said in a statement, "The rule of law has been completely shattered in Hong Kong." The Asia director of Human Rights Watch, Elaine Pearson, said Lai's sentence is effectively a death sentence. She added Lai's years of persecution shows the Chinese government's determination to crush independent journalism and silence anyone who dares to criticize the Communist Party. Edward Lee, a former chief breaking news editor for Apple Daily, said Lai's prison sentence was shocking.
The words I've heard the most today are, "There's nothing more to say." Everyone has reached a point where they're completely lost for words. When you see this verdict, you really don't know what else you can say.
Senator Rick Scott said in a statement, Jimmy Lai was unjustly sentenced by Communist China to 20 years in prison for the crime of daring to think differently from the CCP and refusing to use his newspaper to spread CCP propaganda. Taiwan's government condemned the harsh sentence and called for Lai's release. Taiwan's Mainland Affairs Council said Lai's sentence under Hong Kong's national security law not only deprives him of his personal liberty and tramples on freedom of speech and press freedom, but also denies the people's basic right to hold those in power accountable.
The State Department responded to Jimmy Lai's verdict today. It called the Hong Kong court's sentencing an unjust and tragic conclusion to this case, adding that, quote, "It shows the world that Beijing will go to extraordinary lengths to silence those who advocate fundamental freedoms in Hong Kong, casting aside the international commitments Beijing made in the 1984 Sino-British Joint Declaration." The department says the U.S. urges authorities to grant Lai humanitarian parole. Britain announced it's expanding its visa route for Hong Kongers, allowing children of British national status holders to move independently. The British foreign minister called for Lai to be released on humanitarian grounds, citing ongoing deterioration of rights and freedoms in Hong Kong. Japan expressed serious concern over the impact on freedom of speech. Tokyo warned that trust in the one country, two systems framework continues to be undermined. The European Union demanded Lai's immediate release, calling the prosecution politically motivated. Australia criticized the sentence and urged Beijing to stop suppressing free expression and reconsider the national security law. The final deadline from an alleged ransom